Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads. We're going to start Straight On Till Morning. It's part of this Disney series called A Twisted Tale. They're like what if type stories. Anyway, this one is What If Wendy First Traveled to Neverland with Captain Hook. Okay, so prologue. Somewhere in Neverland. Wait, did we look over by the Troll Bridge? We did. What about Tonal Spring? And the breaches around the shimmering sea? The asker of these questions was a slender young man of intermediate age. Though perhaps if an observer looked him dead in the face, she would notice the last of the pockets of baby fat plumping his cheeks just above his cheekbones. His eyes and mouth and even nose wiggled and puckered with every word and thought in between, like a toddler telling a very important story to his mother. His hair was mussed up and red, his eyes a thicker, darker red. And were his ears just a touch pointed at the tips? The one who answered these questions certainly had pointed ears, though the same observer might be hard-pressed to make out any ears or actual answers at all. The boy spoke to what appeared to be a little more than a golden light that bobbed and sparkled and tinkled like bells. In fact, the whole scene resembled a mesmerist quizzing of pendulum held from a long gold chain glittering in sunlight, whose vague swings returned meanings known only to this occultist himself. But upon looking more closely, one would see that the inside of the golden bauble was a tiny woman with very pointed ears, a serious face, a green dress, and sparkling wings. Her body was like a series of energetic globes, from her golden hair in a messy bun to her hips around silver bells that decorate her shoes. Throughout the conversation, every part of her was as animated as her friend's place. Really? We looked in all those places? Well, what about here? The boy spun suddenly and grabbed the side of a tree as if to physically move it out of its way. Really, he was just looking behind it, but there was nothing hiding there behind some brightly colored lichen, a camouflage moss, and a few grazing unicorn beetles. From this sudden motion and burst of energy to dead exhaustion, the boy slumped, strangely drained by disappointment and exertion. He slid down to the base of the tree, causing at least two of the shining white beetles to fly to higher branches. The bauble of light glittered aggressively up and down and jingled angrily. I can't take it anymore, Tink. I'm beat. I just don't feel like it. The fairy, for that's what she was, zoomed closer, concerned. And it was when her light shone in its brightest on the countenance that the most unusual detail of an already fey and wondrous scene became apparent. For no matter how intensely she glowed, no matter how perfectly yellow and dazzling the sun in the sky shone, neither force of light managed to bruise the shadow off the boy. The boggle jangled in tones of hope. I don't know. We've looked everywhere, twice. Tink, I just don't know where it could be. The bauble swayed quietly, pensively, almost as though the fairy within was in the rarest state of all the fairies, deep thought. Possibly bothered by something. But the boy, even in his diminished state, still kept his attention permanently fixed on himself. He did not notice. She jingled once, tentatively. No, I don't feel like flying. Not right now. I think I'll just rest for a while. You go on without me. I could use a nap. Then I'll feel better. I just know it. The fairy jingled, worried about his face. Just go look without me. He spidered her away like a gnat, sleep already overtaking his body once the decision had been made. Don't feel like flying anymore. He yawned a giant repulsive yawn and soon was snoring. The fairy gazed at him silently. She hung in a cool shadow of the generous tree, spun gently by a summery breeze. They were at the edge of the quiescent jungle, which was the friendliest forest in Neverland. The leaves of the trees spanned every shade of gold and green, and the creatures who lived there were all harmless and mostly furry. The air smelled like ripening blackberries, although it was not quite the right season, and a whisper of cool moistness hinted at a delightfully icy stream somewhere nearby. Only a fool would want to leave. Only a genius would go naff there. But Tinkerbell was twitchy. She and had a rather dark inkling of where the shadow could be, since they affectionately proved where it could not be. And if her friend ever found out that she had this inkling all along, he would be very cross with her indeed. She floated silently over his face, her golden sparkles emulating every lash, every freckle, every pore. He blew out through his careless lips, and his breath lifted up the end of his long, shaggy bangs. She hovered above his pug nose. After debating and biting her own lip, she gave him the tiny, quick fairy kiss on it. Then she steeled herself and zoomed in the sky like a bee bent on finding its way home after a day of foraging nectar. But she was not going home. She was going to look for Peter's shadow in the scariest place of all. She was going to London. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.